Hi, this is Joe again with another review. And today, for this video, I will be discussing the 1982 TV miniseries, The Blue and the Gray. And this was originally on CBS back in 1982, and it was like a 3-part miniseries. And you can see all three perfectly timed miniseries on YouTube now. Because I just found it on YouTube. And this is the VHS version, and the VHS version is only like about 5 hours. But on YouTube they have scenes that for some reason got cut out in this. One scene I do remember that was cut out was a scene where the main character was talking to John Brown. After John Brown was arrested before he got hung. I'm really ahead of myself, but this miniseries stars Stacy Keach, John Hammond, Lloyd Bridges, Rory Calhoun, Colleen Dehurst, and of course Geraldine Page. It also has Robert Vaughn, appearances by Robert Vaughn, Sterling Hayden, Paul Winfield, and Gregory Peck, who played Abraham Lincoln. Of course, this series actually aired before the series they previously did a video on, which was North and South. This aired like 3 years earlier. Because I guess for the success of this series, North and South came on ABC. On the ABC network 3 years later. Well, this series I think it's slightly better than North and South is. And I do like Blue and the Gray a little bit more than North and South is. The reason why is because it's I felt it was better acted. You had place just before the Civil War even started, when Lincoln was just before Lincoln was even elected. But I feel that this is less soap opera-ish than North and South was. North and South is like a little more soap opera-y, with all the betrayals and people sleeping with each other and falling. This one falling in love with this one, and then all of a sudden married to this one, and then of course this one gets killed, and then marries this one. I mean, it was too soap opera. This one doesn't has a soap opera element out of it. Where this story follows, the two main characters, John Hammond, who plays a character named John Geyser, who's in a pretty big family with 5 other relatives, brothers and sisters, and the parents were played by Lloyd Bridges and Geraldine Page. And he's an artist. And I don't know if he did his own actual drawings throughout the film, but all of his brothers were named after, because I picked up on right away, were named after books in the Bible. John, Luke, Mark, and you had Matthew as brothers, and of course you had one sister. And they all lived in Virginia just before in 1859 actually. And the older son John decides to go away to become a newspaper artist in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, because his uncle lives there. And the uncle is married the sister of John's mother. So it's actually his aunt's husband and his family who live in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So you have them in the north, and you have guys in the family in the south. And of course you have all the build up to Civil War. Well, it doesn't have as much of a build up as North and South had, but you have a build up just the same. That's not to the extreme the North and South had. And because it's sped up a little bit faster. And he gets sent When he gets to the gate to his uncle, in the newspaper, the Gettysburg Gazette, I believe the newspaper's name was, he gets sent to cover the John Brown trial, because it was just after John Brown got arrested for his raid in Harper's Ferry, Virginia. No, it's West Virginia. To cover the trial. So he sent sketches up there, and then while he was there, he meets Stacy Keach, who plays a character named Jonah Steele, who worked for Abraham Lincoln. Of course, he didn't know that as the film progresses to a year later when it was just running for president, just got elected president. And so you meet him. And of course, John did him a favor by growing a beard on him so he won't be recognized in his newspaper. So they instantly become friends. And they go to his John's uncle's house. And that's where he meets, when Stacy Keach meets the love of his life, Mary, who is John's cousin. And of course they eventually get married, but he was afraid they would get married that she will eventually die. Because he has this sacred dreams or something, and it's played throughout the film. And of course what happens was when John goes back home, his friend, played by Paul Winfield, was a free black man, gets killed because he was hiding runaway slaves, so he decides not to wear the uniform of the South. But then he doesn't want to wear this for the Northern Army either. So he meets Abraham Lincoln, and Lincoln says to him, "Oh, you can become a correspondent and cover the war that way. And you don't have to worry about. You can be totally neutral, and you can cover the war. You can be covering the war as an honest correspondent." So I figured, okay, great. Maybe I can do that. So that's what he does throughout the rest of the war, and he covers the war, and we do have interacting storylines with his brothers, and of course also with his cousins. You have that as well. Their side of the story as well. So you do have both sides in this film, and you do have interacting storylines. And of course, at the end of the film, they do cover Lincoln assassination, which is a little bit more dramatic than North and South, because they don't really see the immediate aftermath. This here, in North and South, they just have word that he was shot, and you didn't know the repercussions of him being shot and all that type of stuff. And North and South covered when he was just shot in Fort Stadium. And when he was across the street in a boarding house, when he was laid out on a bed that was too short for him, and that's where he died. But the one thing they did like about Blue and the Grays, compared to North and South, is that you actually had Lincoln deliver the Gettysburg Address, which didn't happen in North and South. Because I do remember when North and South aired, especially the second series. The second part, when they covered the Civil War, and then one of the big complaints was, like I said, they had 4 years after the Blue and the Gray did, and they didn't. After this, it did cover the Battle of Gettysburg a little bit because they had the troops there, and they had one of the cousins there. He was there in Gettysburg during the battle. But after the battle, he didn't have the bit where Lincoln delivering the Gettysburg Address, because they covered all the other storylines that was written about the North and South, and he didn't have the Gettysburg Address in it. Well, the Blue and the Gray had Gregory Peck, who said play Lincoln, deliver the Gettysburg Address in it. And of course, when North and South came out, he didn't have it, and I remember there was big controversy over it because they didn't put it in. But in terms of the film, the Blue and the Gray film, it was Very good. It also covers Vicksburg. Surrender of Vicksburg, because that's where his sister was. And he did have a big confrontation with the sister. Well, John and his sister. I forgot his sister's name, so that's why I'm referring to her as his sister. Because of the fact that since John didn't want to join the Confederate Army, his family considered him a traitor because he wanted to defend the house with their land. So when he found out that her house got blown up during the siege of Vicksburg, and the sister's husband was killed, including her and a baby, a nephew, John's nephew. He goes into the caves because she was living in stupid caves, and she blamed him for the death of her husband, her living in a cave like a rat, and it was her words, not mine. And all this type of thing. So he goes to see his nephew and then leaves, and gives her food, and just leaves, and that's it. So you got your way to get out. And of course, later on he met his brother, who called him a traitor. His brother Matthew. His brother Matthew forgave him. Forgave John for not joining the Confederate Army, and apologized for calling him a traitor. So Matthew forgave him. But unfortunately, the father at first didn't, and of course the sister didn't. The sister still didn't forgive him. And of course, in the wilderness, the other brother Mark died during the fire. There was a fire in the wilderness. If anybody knows the Battle of the Wilderness, knows that when they had the battle in there, the leaves caught fire, and some of the soldiers, or the injured soldiers, burnt to death. So you had that, and that's what happened to his brother Mark. So after that, John finally went home after about 4 or 5 years being away, because of what happened early in the film. Comes home, and the sister finally made it home, and she says, to Lloyd Bridges, "Pa, we have a visitor." I said, "Who is it?" Is it? Well, I said, "Emma." What was the sister's name? Emma says, "Oh, the traitor. The traitor is here." And Lloyd Bridges kicked him out and said, "I'm not going to stay long. I'm just here to tell you that Mark died. His ashes from the fire. He died in the wilderness. I was there when it happened." And of course, then they had the battle on the field, and of course, at first John didn't want to fire it, shoot the Northern Army, and eventually he did anyway. But the other subplot was what happened with Stacy Keach. Naturally, of course, his wife, John's cousin, died. As he predicted in his dream. But of course, there was another subplot with his character. It was hunting down a guy who was in the Confederate Army, was killing the northern injured soldiers. And what happened, so he got into a fight with this guy, and the guy who was killing the soldiers stabbed him in the arm, was right arm, you should say his right arm, with a sword, and became infected, and he had to lose his arm. Of course, probably the rest of the movie, he probably had his arm tied by, Keach probably had his arm tied by his back. Then you had that subplot. Of course, the girl that John met at the Battle of Bull Run, Rebecca became a nurse, and they got married eventually. At the end of the film, they got married. That's how the film ended. Spoiler. But there's one subplot where she was working as a nurse, nursing Stacy Keach. Stacy Keach's character, he was delirious with fever, and instead of seeing, the nurse, he saw his dead wife. So of course, when John came in, he saw him kissing his girlfriend at the time. Because he got jealous, he ran off. And of course, eventually they made up and they got married. And of course, he had his other subplot, the youngest brother, Luke. He was in the prison camp, so they had that storyline as well. So you have various storylines and various things that happened throughout the Civil War. Almost similar to Blue and the Gray, North and South was. But I felt the Blue and the Gray handled a little bit better, a little bit quicker. It's a little bit of a faster. I felt it was a little bit faster pace than North and South because North and South was based on the novels that John Jenks wrote, and so it took a longer time to tell the stories. And then got in Blue and the Gray, which I recommend more than North and South, but I like this series better. So that's my review of. I know I'm doing a quick review because I know I give away everything. For those of you who want to look it up on YouTube, you can't see it. If you want to take the time to see it, I highly recommend you seeing the parts on YouTube. I think it was divided up into 3 parts, if I'm not mistaken. The person who posted it wasn't me. But if you do ever get a chance to look it up on YouTube and spend a couple of hours on your computer screen to check it out, I highly recommend it. So that's my review of the Blue and the Gray. Please feel free to comment on it. Please like it. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and please share the videos with your Facebook pages. And thanks for watching.